are you?
Wonderful.
Okay, Colin? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 27, 2023 meeting of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority Board of Governors. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If I can ask everyone to please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sylvia, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Paul Anthony.
Here.
Ann Baum. Robert Brooks. Frank Facciano.
Here.
Don Godshaw. Justin Grimshaw.
Here.
John Hayes.
Here.
Ron Heckman. Larry Hamburger. James Irwin.
Here.
Jeff Matskin.
Present.
Glenn Riebman.
Present.
Mike Stershik.
Here.
Jonathan Strauss.
Here.
Chris Worley.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the May 30th, 2023 Board of Governors meeting. Those minutes were circulated via Novus Agenda. Motion by Justin, second by Glenn. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next are the reports of committees, officers, and staff. First on the list is the Treasurer's Report. Justin.
Go ahead, Todd, do your thing.
Wow, thanks.
I'm sorry. I'm
You
sorry,
weren't
Todd,
getting a big
if I
one.
can interrupt for 1 second. I skipped public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay, Todd, back.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'll miss a bite there. You got it all in.
We're good.
Good job.
Everything.
All right, I'm making sure. All right. Go through the May. Again, we go through these in pretty much in detail in our committee meetings, but this is kind of the overview. Finance, if you look at traffic, because that's what drives the engine, traffic was down versus May of 2022, kind of what we expected with some of the reconsolidation in the airport industry, and regional airports lagging behind somewhat. So again, we expect that to kind of continue through, at least through the summer, but then we expect things to start to pick back up again. But even with that, we are ahead of 2022 year-to-date and also 2019. So again, year-to-date traffic ahead of those numbers. You can see our bus traffic is obviously a big part of that, 10% of the total traffic. Breaking down basically our occupancy of who's using our seats. You can see 86% of our seats are being used now versus 84 in 2019.
Todd, I meant to ask this the other day at the committee. Do we know what the percent load factor is on the buses?
I'm sure we can get that, but I don't have it available, but they're pretty full.
I was just wondering, it seems like it must be pretty high given the numbers.
Yeah, we can add that to the report.
Sure.
That's a breakdown.
We don't always report it, but we can ask them to.
Yeah, we can ask them.
We had asked anecdotally of American, they were running 95% plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty high load.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
But it would be within the numbers, but I don't think we have it broken down within.
Right.
But that's a good question. We'll look into that for you. Comparing ourselves to all U.S. airports, again, kind of what I mentioned earlier, that the recovery for regional airports is going to be lag behind the industry as a whole, but the regionals will eventually catch up to the larger hubs. You can see all airports, the seats are up 4.3, throughput lagging a little bit behind, but in our case, it's a little different. Our seats are down 8.2, but our throughput is not down nearly as much. Again, talking about the occupancy that we command with the seats that we put on the market. Comparing ourselves to other peer airports, other regionals, sort of like ourselves, you can see that our peer average is down on throughput of 25 25% and 23% on seats, and our numbers obviously are doing much better than that. We've talked about White Plains with the low-cost carrier Breeze there. That's why their numbers are better than ours. But everybody else wishes they were in our position.
Just a curiosity, and the only reason I ask this is a friend of mine's flying in there on Thursday. Why don't we include Stewart International on the list?
In terms of peers?
Yeah. I know they're about a third our size in terms of traffic volume.
Yeah, and, it's also about where are the large hubs located near them.
Okay.
So I think part of what we're trying to look at is airports that are similar size,
But
similar level of
Similar
service.
location.
And near some of those large
Where they can-
hubs
yeah.
where
Okay.
you have that similar market.
And that
It's
is,
just strange to me that you could go to Stewart and fly to Iceland.
Sure.
Yeah, there's caught me.
and to John's point, if you go back to when we do a lot of our benchmarking, we do that at the end of the year when we compare ourselves to our cash and, cost, CPEs, all that, it is based on these same 10 peer airports. So we do that pretty much every year. We're going to be working on the 2022 one. It takes a little time before everybody puts their stuff into the reporting system, which we're due at the end of this month. So normally we get that a little, maybe a month afterwards or so, what it is as of the end of the year when we compare ourselves. But it is compared to these 10 airports. And again, a lot of it is, as Tom said, is really their location to larger hubs and also their stuff. Looking at the month of May, again, we had a positive month when you throw in CARES. We had a lot of CARES money in there. But again, we always talk about where we are without CARES and with that full staffing number. You can see that the net income not quite as robust when you take out the CARES and if we were at full staffing. So again, that would put us at a minus $79K for the month. But overall, you can see on number 3 down there at the bottom that overall expenses are favorable versus budget. Again, same thing for year to date. You can see where we are. We can talk about us as far as 3.6 million of net income, 1.9 without CARES, and then 864K without CARES and at full staffing. Now, some of that staffing would be some of the overtime and some of the stuff that would have happened with a more colder and more snowstorms during the winter. But again, a big part of any time we're going to have a positive fluctuation is going to be personnel, because you can see down there, 60% of our budget is personnel when you factor that in there, so that is a big part of our numbers there. But again, we're still growing, and we talked about this some in our committee meeting. We're growing, but we're not at the full capacity of budget. We did break down the personnel by department in the committee meetings that was asked for. We also, while I'm talking about personnel, we also did put in the policy manuals into Novus, so they are in Novus. I know that was asked for. We are in the process of updating some of our manuals and policies, so we're trying to get something that was more current, but we put the current ones out there in Novus, so we put those in there today. I know that was asked for, so that is out there in Novus in the financial section. And always talk about streaks, which is important. Each month positive net income, excluding CARES and our infamous recurring income, miscellaneous income, a lot of our easements and stuff we had in the past. But you can see in 2019 we had 11 out of the 12 months were positive. Last year, 10 out of the 12 were positive. This year, every month so far has been positive, excluding CARES and miscellaneous income. Then breaking down our cash again, we never want to go below 60, but you can see we're staying pretty much above 200, and then we start to come down as we start to spend some of our money on some of our capital things. Part of the reason that money went up is because we just added about $5 million from our terminal connector loan that was added in at the end of May.
And that won't be dispersed until,
Well, we've already paid the money, that's just reimbursement. So we have other things.
okay, that came in and other things.
Right, yeah. So that's always on a reimbursement basis, that stuff, so
Yep.
this timing of that stuff. Any questions? Ready.
To accept the report.
Okay, move to accept the finance report. Motion by Mike, second. Jeff? Okay, any discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Justin, anything more for treasurers, or are we off to business?
On to the business.
Okay, sounds good.
Take it right there, Ryan. Both of these are yours. We'll start with the runway.
All right, thanks, Justin. Good afternoon, everybody. So the first item looking for approval is awarding a bid for runway 64, package 6. This is the 6th phase of construction for the runway. This work element incorporates the taxiway addition or expansion at Alpha 7, which is the main connection to the cargo apron. Looking to the components here, James D. Morrissey from Philadelphia, PA submitted lowest responsible bid May 25th earlier this year for 2.497. The bid was in line with the engineer's estimate, and basically this next month we're looking to submit the grant application to the FAA for their funding of the project. Our share when we get the grant will be about 5% or $124,000. In terms of timing, we're looking to submit the grant in July, anticipate receiving the grant August or September, so we'll be back to the board for the acceptance of the full grant with some of the other construction elements. But the reason we're presenting it now is to start some of the administration work with the contract to get them working on some of the submittals. So if the grant funding comes in August or September, they can maybe actually start some of the construction this fall, which sometimes with the timing, if we get the grant in September and haven't started administratively, we won't actually start construction until next year. So with that, we're just looking to award the bid, for the runway 64 project, package 6 at ABE, taxiway geometry improvements to James D. Morrissey of Philadelphia, PA, in the amount of $2,497,506.72, pending receipt of a future FAA grant. So, any questions?
Entertain a motion to approve the bid.
So moved.
Motion by Glenn, second by Jeff. Any discussion? Any questions?
I just want to say I think it's really good that the staff is acting prospectively on this, get ahead of it, and Morrissey has just proven their worth. So let's go ahead.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great, thank you. I'll jump into the next one. I went through committees. We're looking for approval to accept the FAA grant 119-2023 through the community project funding grant element for the security checkpoint connector project. Really just some minimal background. We applied back in April of 2022. The project was approved December of 2022 through the annual appropriations bill, and then working with the FAA, they then got receipt of the funding in March, so we've been working with them on the application. We hear everything that they have, some minor documentation we're working through. We should be receiving the grant later in July, so we're looking again to get the approval now. In terms of the project itself, just a quick recap. It's 8 public circulation control devices, the secure exit portals in the tunnel, and then some backflow preventers at the end of the bridge for the connector. Again, you'll see the costs. Our share is 10%, but they're covering $600,000 of that cost. Again, I mentioned in terms of the time frame. Equipment has been ordered. It's actually already on site. We just can't install it until we get the actual grant so we can get the reimbursement in place. So with that, again, looking to accept the FAA grant 342-001-119-2023, the acquisition and installation of equipment related to the security checkpoint terminal connector, and authorize the executive director to accept the grant offer.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mike, second. Jonathan? Jonathan got you in. Okay. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great.
Ryan, thank you.
Thank you.
Justin, anything else?
Nothing else from the business committee?
Okay, thank you. Next is the executive committee. We had 2 discussion points during the executive committee meeting last week. First is approval of a new master concessionaire agreement with Tailwind Hospitality. Darren?
Thank you. So we went over this in pretty good detail as well at the committee, so just a little brief presentation on Tailwind Hospitality, who we're looking to be our master concessionaire starting in September. They've been around since 2005. You can see they've got about $60 million in sales, 39 airports. It's a pretty decent sized company. Their corporate offices are in Wilmington, North Carolina, and Denver, Colorado. Proposal, when we solicited for proposals, we asked for one national brand, one local brand at a minimum, which they gave us, which is fantastic. So Which Superior Sandwiches is a national franchise. There's actually one location in Allentown. Z-Craft, I'm sure some of you had their food, local in Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton. They're also looking at doing the Draft House, which will kind of be the bar featuring, local craft beers, locally sourced ingredients. Market in the Valley is the gift shop. Again, looking at local products like Josh Early Candies, Arrowmaker Honey, different things like that. They've also proposed a satellite bar, which is kind of a semi-permanent bar down in the lower level of the departure building, which would be fantastic, serving those folks down at the gates 2 and 3 that are a little farther from the concessions. What you find out at airports is people don't leave their gate once they get there, so taking something to the gate's gonna hopefully get them to buy more. And then we are looking to have them reopen the Lehigh Valley Cafe right outside the doors here, which is certainly something we'd like to get done sooner rather than later, so. Just a couple quick pictures of what we're talking about. We're looking at moving the bar out into the center of the concourse, so a little different than what you see out there today. Much more seating, gives us more room where the current bar is for those 2 restaurant concepts and a little bit bigger gift shop. So just a little better allocation of space for us. And kind of a little generic type picture of what the gift shop will look like as well. Contract terms, the key terms here, this does start September 1st. It's a 15-year term. They're about a $2 million capital investment. Need to have the work done in 120 days unless we extend it. The reason for the option for us to extend is they're a little concerned about supply chain issues and things that could throw this off a bit. So, we'll work with them to get it done as quickly as possible. Obviously, everybody motivated to do that. Also, midterm capital investment of no less than 25%, so no less than $500,000 after 7 years to refresh things. 12% of gross revenues is what we get paid, and pricing is street pricing plus 10%, which is pretty standard in the industry and what we're doing currently. So that's it. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Darren, are they making the $2 million or?
They are.
They are.
It's their investment.
I'd just like to reiterate, during committees, we talked about this group, and they committed to using local
Yes.
businesses, right?
Yes,
Keeping
sir.
our money here in the Lehigh Valley.
The first questions I asked them, you can be sure of that.
Okay. I just like to reiterate that. I like to get out on record as much as possible.
Understand.
Okay.
Understand.
That's hard to believe.
Yes, sir.
Are they keeping the current employees?
They plan to try to keep all the current employees. That their goal would be to keep everybody. They said they typically do. And they have already talked to our current concessions operator about that, so.
So if this company goes south, all the concessions will be wiped out, is that correct?
Everything but Dunkin'. Dunkin' is a separate concession out there now, which is the way it is today too. It's a single concessionaire operating those today.
Vending machines.
And the vending machines are also separate.
And if they do go south, what's the repercussions?
So we go out and find another operator, or, we look to operate things ourselves too. We have to until we can get them out to another operator. But yeah, that's a very good question, but.
We can't have the stuff that they built back, right?
No, I mean, anything that's here will stay. If they were to go out, there's a lot of, obviously, the contract has provisions in there. Everything, we would keep everything at that point in time, so they'd be up and running and, functional, so. And we do have a performance bond during the contract, or a performance bond during construction, letter of credit during the contract as well. So if they were to walk, we do have some financial support as well.
On Jeff's question down there, is there a successor language then if they get bought out? That everybody else comes right into this contract?
Yeah, well, so there's successor and assignment language. They're pretty standard in most of our contracts, where we actually have to approve any successor or assignee as well.
Okay, good.
I'm always a little concerned about making sure we knew who our new partners are gonna be.
Right.
So,
Can you reconfirm it's $2 million total capital project?
Yes.
We're not contributing?
We're not contributing.
Okay. And then is there anything in the contract terms where if they, leave or at the end of their term, they put anything back to original?
It's at our option at that point in time. We can either leave it or they can return it back to them.
Okay.
Back to the original. Yes, ma'am.
What about their performance and delivery on what they're promising today? It sounds great, but
We have there's literally a list of probably 20 different performance indicators that they have to maintain, and penalties range anywhere from financial penalties to termination. So depending on them maintaining those standards. Definitely, honestly, a much stronger contract than we have currently in place today with our current concessionaire.
We've been with them for 15 years, right?
10.
10?
when they sounded good at the time too.
Yeah, I mean, and what we talked about in committees, unfortunately, the world of concession operators for airports this size is pretty small. That's just the reality of it. So these guys, we talked to some of the other airports, people are very happy with them. They do seem to have a much more robust sort of organization than some of the other operators, so I like that. You know, they've got a pretty strong management team, large management team, so I think we'll see a lot more support from their corporate folks in the local market. So which I think will be a big, super helpful. So.
Other questions? Okay, I lost track. I think we have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we?
I don't think so.
We have it either.
Okay, entertain a motion. Motion by Glenn, second by Frank. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next, the hotel privilege fee.
Thank you. So again, we discussed this last month, discussed it again in pretty good detail at the committees. The one thing that was asked was for us to take a look at sort of market, to make sure that this $3 fee was consistent with market. So we kind of went back, one thing we found is there's not a lot, very few airports our size with airport hotels. Look at those peer airports that Todd mentioned, we went through all of those. The only one on that list that has a hotel is Harrisburg. So we're able to get some information on theirs. They are doing, it's a 1% fee, so obviously lower than what we're gonna get at our $3 flat fee at this point in time. So outside of that, we did just some other general inquiries. We talked to our folks at Kaplan Kirsch, because we know they work with a lot of hotels, and they said the range is anywhere from 1.5% to 3.5%. You know, so if you're looking at our $3, that's about, say, 2.5% based on what ADR is now. So I think we're certainly in the realm there. A couple other hotels, not airport hotels, that we got $3 per night fixed. That's been in place for 20 years and never changed since it started. And one that just opened recently in Virginia, the $2.50 per night with language that says they can negotiate raising it, but no guarantee that we'll ever raise. So those are kind of the ones we got. Like I said, it was hard to find a lot of information from airports because there's just not a lot of airports our size with airport hotels. We did reach out to Philly and Pittsburgh and got no information back from either of them at this point in time. But I do think that's a little bit of apples and oranges comparison anyhow, even if we would have. So outside of that, I mean, hope you can answer any questions on that piece of it if there's any on the sort of the market rate and what we did find. Outside of that, we're looking at it is a $3 fee. We start the date this first hotel opens. It's set to automatically increase by 75 cents every 5 years. I think the
Minimum 75 cents.
minimum of 75 cents, yes. The best thing we did, I think, in this is that every 10-year, benchmark against CPI. So we're going to get the 75-cent increases at a minimum of 5 years. If that's not keeping up with CPI or with inflation at 10 years, we're going to raise it even additionally, not just the 75. So I think we have a little bit of kind of a belts and suspenders on that. We did look at, percentages as opposed to fixed fees. I think the flat fee outpaces the percentage over long term of what we think we could get from the developer, that 2% mark. So I think the $3 fee is actually a little better than that. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's an easier fee to manage. It's an easier fee to audit, everything else. So that's pretty much it. I'm looking for the resolution to establish the airport hotel privilege fee for any hotel operating on LNAA property, starting at $3 per occupied room night on the date the first hotel opens on LNAA property, and will increase a minimum of 75 cents every 5 years, with additional increases at 10-year intervals if we fall below CPI. And any hotel opening on the property after the first hotel will pay whatever that fee is at the time, the adjusted fee. So if someone opens in 10 years, they'll pay whatever we're at that point in time, then we'll start back at $3. So, happy to answer any questions on that one.
You'd entertain a motion to approve the hotel approval fee. Motion by Mike, second by Glenn. Open it up for discussion. We have talked about this at length at the last couple of meetings, so hopefully everyone's questions have been answered to this point, but open it up for anything that anyone would like to discuss.
I guess my discussion is, we already agreed to terms on the current with Marriott.
Yes, sir.
$3. This is for any future hotel.
For any hotel that would operate on airport property.
I don't see the necessity for this.
Well, I think the only thing, and listen, we don't have to do it that way. We can do it with, but any hotel that comes here in the future is going to pay that same fee if we're charging. We have to treat everybody equally.
So right, we treat everybody equally, so this resolution is really not needed.
Well, it is. We need to establish the fee. We need to establish that we're
But,
charging.
so anybody on this authority in the future, who knows how many years down the road, would be tied to this.
Another board could certainly pass a new resolution to amend this too.
Yeah,
That could be
so
done at
there's
any time.
really no reason for this resolution.
There is at this time, because we do need to establish the fee at this time.
We established a fee with Marriott, that $3 a night. That's already established, that's agreed in the term.
Actually, in the term sheet, it says that the board will vote to establish a hotel privilege fee.
Oh, then I'm gonna go percentage. I want 3%. If that's where we're at, because I thought I understood, we're already at $3 a night with Marriott, that's agreed in the term.
We need, it's agreed in the term sheet, but we need board approval of that to back up the term sheet.
No.
I mean, to me, Paul, I think we've crossed that bridge already.
We have. But now you're telling me I'm only halfway across the bridge. I'm not completely across the bridge.
If you want to argue about it a second time, I mean,
I'm not gonna argue
not
about it.
saying
I'm just gonna vote no again. I'm not gonna argue.
Okay, sounds good. Other discussion points?
So just to be clear, this is not gonna be a barrier to our deal with Marriott?
No.
They're already
This is in their term
into
sheet.
this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Other questions? Hearing none, Jonathan?
Real quick, competition's good, right? So say we attract another hotel, can we amend this?
We can
I
amend
know
it.
we have a
No,
five-year.
If we amend it and we lower it for that hotel, we're gonna lower it for this hotel as well.
Yeah, but I would say if anything, if someone wants to come in here and they're like, hey, we don't care, we'll pay a $5 fee.
Yeah,
We could go to the existing tenant and say, hey, we're raising this, even though we're not at the 5-year mark.
It will be in their lease, I believe. This is gonna say, well, it's gonna say they're gonna pay the hotel privilege fee, so I think we could technically do it. But I also think if someone came in and said they were willing to pay more, then we could probably charge different too at that point in time. You're not looking at sort of preferential policies at that point. The bigger concern would be if someone comes in and we use a lower fee to attract them,
Yeah.
then this hotel's gonna have a complaint.
To be clear, they're not paying it, they're collecting it.
They're collecting it, they're not paying it, it comes straight from the customer.
Right.
It's a pass-through.
Yeah, one of the questions that was asked at Northampton County Council last month had to do with making sure that anything we do here is equitable in terms of off-airport competition as well. So we've got to keep the FAA in the loop in terms of anything that happens on property. Then we have political considerations as well. Other topics, other points? Okay, hearing none, all those, I have not asked.
I'll motion.
We did, okay.
We did have a
Okay,
motion.
you have a motion and a
I
second.
keep track of my motions.
You have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? All right.
Okay, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, let's go, since we had a few, let's go to a show of hands. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we'll go next. Okay, who on the line voted aye?
Christopher Worley.
Okay, and then nay, I'm sorry?
Dawn.
And Don. And Don voted aye. Okay, and then nay, we've got 1, 2, 3, and who on the line voted nay? Okay,
Yeah, but just a delay.
yes, let's giving it some time. There was only 3 on? Okay, so we are, good, then we're 8-3. Okay, sounds good, thank you. Okay, I don't think we have anything else for exec committee, we'll move to director's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as Todd mentioned, traffic's still down a little bit. We're down for May 4% from 2019 levels. Again, we anticipate that happening through August, just based on the number of seats in the market. So that's sort of consistent with what we're seeing, and then sort of that rebound of aircraft and seats in September this year, and so carrying through the end of the year. So we'll continue to monitor that. In terms of the cargo activity, however, it's a tale of two stories. Here we've got now best May air cargo on record, so up 36%, an additional 6 million pounds of air cargo. We had 22, almost 27 million pounds of air cargo. So again, doing very well, up year-to-date 31% on cargo over last year, which was also a record year. So continuing to see a lot of cargo activity and growth there. Since our last board meeting on May 30th, on June 2nd, the NTSB was in town. They were actually providing a seminar and a workshop for 50 attendees. We had 23 different organizations represented in our mutual aid responders, understanding how the NTSB works during an incident and sort of the process that goes on during that. Really informative, great feedback. I know a number of staff were there and I think got a lot out of that, so it was great to have them here. June 14th, Lehigh Valley Aviation Services was at White Plains. They were actually participating with the National Association of Business Aircraft, and they were at their annual seminar. So that was a fun event, and I think it was great to get our brand and our FBO there. On June 15th, the next day, we saw several of you at the Denver inaugural service with the Legionnaire, and that was a great event. Thanks, John and Mike, and I think Frank, you were there, and Jonathan, I think, was there as well. So thanks to the board for their support coming out to that event. We appreciate that. On the 21st of June, working with the Educational Opportunity Center in Hazleton, we had a group of students coming down from Hazleton to get a tour of the facilities and talk about employment opportunities and types of jobs that we have available at the airport. It was a good meeting with that team. In terms of upcoming events, we have another TSA pre-check open enrollment event coming up, and that's actually running from July 31st through August 4th. I think, Colin, we're going to send out an email to the board later this week with the details on that. So registration begins this week. If people are looking to sign up for TSA pre-check, you can do that. August 22nd, we're going to be participating with Hanover Township down at Canal Park for their Community Day. So we go down every year and participate with the township. For September 25th, TSA has posted a national security amendment that will go into effect on the 25th of September that requires aviation worker screening. So all of our staff, airline staff, others who access secure areas of the airport will now have to submit to randomized screening. Because this was just issued last month, we're still working on putting together the details of how that's going to work. The company that can provide the screening, I know Steve and I have had several conversations about this, likely will be back in August to present something as an action item in order to get some, again, not budgeted, unfunded mandate, but this is coming directly from TSA headquarters. So this is system-wide.
Would that have any impact on staffing, on our ability to attract and retain staff?
So it's one of those things that's always challenging, right? When you're working at an airport, there's a number of other additional requirements on the security side that you wouldn't have on outside.
Right.
So yeah, it certainly could, but I think this has been something that's been discussed for a number of years. I think this is the start of some larger screening that's going to take place. But again, just conjecture here at this point. But I think you're right. It could present some challenges, but again, it's not really prohibiting anything you can't do today. But now we're actually going to be posting up and doing screening. So
Okay. Thank you.
sure. On October 7th, we talked about this. Special Olympics will have their plane pull with FedEx here. So we're excited to see a plane pull back at the airport after a little absence. And November 6th, a little ways away, but we already have that posted on our website, our Next Sphere of Flying seminar from 6 to 8 p.m. that evening. Registration online, so if you're interested or folks that are interested, I think we have openings for 12, Colin, for that class. So that's available as well on the website.
What's the date on that?
November 6th.
Thank you.
Sure. And we can get you more information about it.
It's not for me.
Okay.
We're good. I have a family member. I'm trying to get on a plane.
Oh, okay. Well, we can talk. That's good. That's great. Okay. And with that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
And that actually does fill up fairly quickly, so, yeah, let's get Justin the info so you can pass that along.
Got it. We're going to start with the date. I'll let you know if I need anything else. Thanks.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments for Tom? Ann?
Just a question on the traffic being down. Is that a national issue? Is it limited to airports of our size?
Yes, so what we typically saw during the recovery from the pandemic is airports our size recovered a little quicker in terms of the seats in the market. The medium and large hubs really lagged behind, in part also because of international traffic that they were seeing was down. Those airports are now starting to see a larger recovery. The airlines themselves are still trying to figure out flight schedules. We know they had some challenges last summer. And we talked about, just at the last meeting, just a little bit about the fact that there's a little bit more oversight now by the federal government to make sure that airlines are committing to the schedules that they're saying they're going to fly, and that there could be penalties if they do not. So airlines have pulled back capacity over the summer to ensure that the schedules they're posting can actually be flown. And where we're seeing that is airports our size. We're also seeing a decrease in the number of 50 seat and under and other, even the larger regional jets. And that's where you're also seeing, not having those regional jets in the system is starting to hurt, airports our size as well. So the great news is we have some of that recovery coming back in September, so we're seeing that, which is encouraging. We just saw the Denver service, so Allegiant continues to be a great partner. Legacy carriers are doing well. John points out all the time about our bus traffic really not being counted in some of the numbers that we look at. But certainly we have a couple of different flavors of activity for business travel, for leisure, the bus traffic, and that's really helping to keep our connectivity to the hubs solid, and that's really key to keeping that traffic coming back.
Yeah, that's reporting that we adjusted a couple of months ago because the bus traffic's material.
Right.
Yep. With American adding it, it's more than just, it's United going back and forth to Newark. Yep, so now with American as well. And, yeah, it will be good to see if we can get official information in terms of the load factors on the buses.
Yeah.
So I would assume they'd share it.
Oh, yeah, they definitely would.
Okay.
I just don't think we've asked them to report.
Yep. Yep, so that'd be good.
Yeah, even though it doesn't count, it'd be interesting for us to see it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if it's under 90.
Oh, I would have too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the reality of it is we're not gonna get a flight back to Philly. I mean, just, they're not gonna run a plane for that short a distance, and with all the reasons that we talked about. But we've heard, and we've talked about at this table, a number of people that we know that take the bus on a fairly regular basis, and they like it. It works well.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, other questions or comments for Tom?
Just an update on the connector project.
Sure. So project is continuing just from the update we had from Ryan last week. We're still looking at wrapping some things up. So talking about, at this point, about a soft opening, not a go live, but a soft opening and a little bit more of an event to get people into the space. That last week of July, I know working with Colin, we want to make sure we get all of our elected officials in. And so that's trying to coordinate a lot of schedules, but we're looking at a date for that. The go live wouldn't happen until after that, when TSA can move some of the existing equipment up to the new space, so that we have to coordinate with TSA, and that would be sometime the following week, more than likely.
So you're looking late July, early August.
Right.
Okay.
How did the structure hold up with the rain that we've had?
So far, so good.
Okay.
Good.
Good?
No
Yeah,
leaks.
knock on wood,
No
for
leaks.
salt.
Just need the gavel.
No wind damage, so everything held up well.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear. Other comments or questions for Tom? Okay, Tom, thank you.
Sure.
Elizabeth, Solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You've heard me mention in the past that we were getting some tax exemption, tax appeals for Lehigh County prepared. Those have been filed. There's 7 properties that we're getting the annual exemption for. There is now a fee introduced this year of $200 per exemption that you're going for, also for commercial property. Residential, it's lower. Those fees do not apply to an interim appeal. So for any properties that change hands in the middle of the year, then so long as we timely file the appeals, there won't be a fee associated. But it's nominal compared to the exemption that you're gonna get on the parcels. So hearings will be scheduled. It's usually one day that we go and just present in case I go, someone from my office goes with a staff member. We haven't had any issues in the past, because we identify the parcels that are correct, for an exemption. So I'll keep you updated on the hearing for that. And my office has been assisting with the liquor license application for the concessionaire. That's moving along quickly, so it's really all that's notable for this month.
Continued abeyance on the egregious stormwater tax.
So there was one of the parties asked for an extension of the briefing schedule. And so that the briefs are now due, I think, July and August. So, and actually there is a point I could discuss, would deal with legal strategy, so we can take an executive session after, before we leave, and we can go over a little bit more of that.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Attorney Marcon? Okay, hearing none, thank you. Any new business before we go into executive session?
Yeah, John,
Yep.
yeah. Could be old business, new business. Back in, I think it was May's meeting, I asked about employee survey. I think the meeting after we talked about the cost of it, but it's kind of like died.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see an employee survey, and I'd like to get that on the agenda somewhere. That I think it's important to get the feedback from our employees.
Okay, we can put that on the agenda. We are not going to be meeting in July, I assume.
Correct.
At this point, we
We
don't have
assume at
anything
this
that would
point.
drive, we normally take July and just let people go on vacations. So we're back in August. We've got some things on the agenda in August, so we can look at either August or September. Okay. We'll take a look at the schedules, Paul, and put it on either one when we can
Thank
fit
you.
it.
And I appreciate the policies being posted in Novus. I will look at them either this afternoon or tomorrow, so thank you.
Okay. Any other new or old business? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to move to executive session. Motion by Jeff, second.
Second.
By Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Fetch.
Summoned.
Summoned. I like fetch.
When it comes back in, tell them to sit. Sit and stay.
We good to go? Okay, thank you. Exiting executive session, Attorney Marcon, could you please outline what we discussed in the executive session?
Yes, sir. The board went into executive session to discuss legal strategy in the stormwater tax matter. During the session, no deliberation or votes occurred.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Justin, we're good. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Again, no meetings in July, scheduled back.